Hello, I'm going to talk about what being non-binary feels to me. And I'm probably going to end up remaking this video at some point when I have more time to think about it because this is just my initial thoughts. I've only realized I was non-binary maybe a couple weeks ago, so this is just my initial thoughts on what that is. So the way I would describe it is, if somebody cisgender has their gender and body in alignment, and somebody transgender has to take steps for their gender to feel in alignment with their body, or the other way around, then when I'm non-binary, I don't feel like I have a gender. Like, could somebody please show me what being a woman is supposed to actually feel like? What does being a man feel like? To me, I don't feel anything. It feels like my gender is just the clothes I wear and the way I cut my hair and all sorts of tiny little incidental things that are really like expression, but not like inherent, not like an identity. I don't feel like I have an identity. Like, yeah, I'm in a woman's body and I don't really have a problem with being in a woman's body, but I also don't feel like I am female in some like inherent femaleness way. And so when you take away all of society's messaging, which is honestly the hardest part about any kind of identity, is figuring out you separate from what society wants you to be. Once you figure that out, what you're left with is not just a list, you're left with a list of things that you like and a list of things that you don't. And some of those things are going to be feminine things, and some of those things are going to be masculine. In my case, it turns out I happen to like masculine things. The clothes are thicker, and I like that. Pants have pockets, and I like that. I like the way they smell. I like the way they feel on me. But it's not a trait that's inherent to them being masculine things, if that makes any sense. So gender roles and like signifiers change a lot. So for example, the color blue used to be the feminine color, and then at some point it switched and it became pink. So gender signifiers change kind of all the time. So it's not a matter of this is inherently masculine, therefore I like it better, or this is inherently feminine and therefore I don't like it. It's I happen to like this particular kind of thing. And if for some reason the label swapped and all of a sudden feminine products had to be cut the same way that we cut masculine ones, I'd buy the feminine ones because it's not a matter of the label that's put on it. It's a matter of, do I like this thing or do I not like this thing? And it turns out the answer is, for now, I like masculine stuff better. But again, it's not an intrinsic masculine quality, it's just stuff. And I guess part of it's also that we live in a society. We live in a society. And part of that society is we're often labeled according to what we buy, what we purchase. And that's inherently kind of limiting, especially when you can't really purchase anything because coronavirus shut down. Because it's kind of hard to go shopping right now in general. But when you're limited to only just what you buy and what you don't buy, it's also just inherently kind of limiting. It limits your understanding. It limits you to just what you consume. And I think you can be bigger than the stuff that you buy. And that's what non-binary is, I think, to me. It's not a matter of liking masculine stuff better because it's masculine. It's a matter of I don't inherently feel like I have a gender at all. So why don't I buy masculine things if my gender literally doesn't make a single bit of difference to me? If I was born a guy, I don't know how that would be markedly different than how I was born a girl. And not just in terms of, it feels to me that gender, to me, feels like just society giving you messaging and you either internalizing or rejecting that messaging. And being non-binary is going, wait a minute, do I feel a gender at all? What does being a woman feel like? And I know I said that earlier in the video, but that's the question that I keep coming back to. What does being a woman feel like inside of you? What does that feel like? What is that feeling? Because I don't have that feeling. And that doesn't mean I'm lacking. It just means that when I play around with gender, it's because gender doesn't really matter. And I know that applies to everybody. That gender really is a lot to do with society. But it seems like to other people, gender does have some inherent internal meaning. And I'm not invalidating that. That's real. But to me, gender doesn't have an internal meaning. Gender is just marketing terminology. And it's both freeing to realize that, but it's also incredibly, I don't know the word for it, but it's freeing because you're free from society's illusions. But it's also a little bit terrifying because freedom means you have a choice. And when you have a choice, all those choices matter or feel like they matter more than when it feels like you don't have a choice. And when you feel like you don't really have a gender, it means you're allowed to choose whatever the hell you want. And there's a lot of stuff to choose from. So I started this vlog so that way I could kind of document the stuff that I'm changing into and whether or not I like that stuff. Sometimes I'm going to experiment and I'm going to get a wrong answer. And sometimes I'm going to experiment and find something I really do like. And I know right now I'm talking mainly to myself. But that's okay. Because if I just keep talking to myself, maybe somebody will find that interesting. Maybe someone will find that entertaining. And even if somebody doesn't, I think the documenting process, I think the reflecting on myself and recording that will give me more confidence in myself. The only way to be confident is essentially to fake it till you make it. And so if I keep faking it for the camera, how confident I'm feeling, I will feel that more confident. I already feel more confident in the 9 minutes it's taken for me to record this. I already feel way more confident than I did when I started recording, because just by saying the words out loud, they become real to me. They become not just thoughts that are circling in my head, but actual real things that are tangible, that I can look back on, that I can reflect on. And I think that's important to do, whether or not you're the kind of person willing to talk in front of a camera, in front of strangers, or whether you just want to write it down into a journal. And while I do both, it's kind of nice to be able to record myself and see my own thoughts as I'm forming them and thinking them and saying them. And I'm going to one day know exactly who I am. But by the time I know exactly who I am is going to change. So I'm never going to be quite done figuring myself out. So long as I keep doing that, once a week I'm going to talk about that. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking in front of a little blinking dot on top of my computer. Because I'm trying to figure myself out, and the only way you figure yourself out is in relation to other people. So that's the end of the video, and I will see you next week.